I know you guys have all seen the 10 out of 10 reviews given to the new God of War, but the question on everyone's mind is it actually worth it? So let me give you the short answer. Yes, it is most certainly worth it. Now, before anything, I will say for spoiler-free purposes, I'm going to show the game mostly within the first few hours of the game. Anyways, what exactly makes this game so good? Well, for starters, everything in this game was built off of the last game to an insane degree. Boss fights, skill tree, even down to how long the game is. It's around like 30 hours, give or take, regarding if you do side quests, if you just straight shot the story, difficulty, all sorts of stuff. Most of the joy for me, though, comes out of the story. And of course, you all know at the end of the last game, you saw the growth of a bond between Atreus and Kratos. In this game, it builds that to a staggering degree, even to a point where I was very surprised. Even to points where my eyes started to water. There's a very clear main point they want to get across, and you will see what I'm talking about when you play the game. And with that said clear main point, it brings more vulnerability with the characters, and not just Kratos. This goes for Atreus, Faye, Brock, and Sindri, and to my surprise, even Thor and Odin. What I mean by that is they aren't just these bad guys that are bad for the sake of being bad, but relying on lore. They actually have depth to them. There are certain story moments where you will feel bad for them. And regarding the emotional toll this game gives to you, when you get toward the end of the game, it's very much a crescendo throughout the game, if that kind of makes sense. At the beginning, it starts kind of slow, and when you kind of play through it, it gets faster, 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 and toward the end, they just sucker punch you with emotional gut wrenches. Like, oh my god. And this is off the dome too. It's actually amazing. And going off of that as well, the humor aspect of the game is kind of like one of the main draws, to me at least, because when you make a story, you can't just keep going for those emotional gut-wrenching things, because if you keep doing that, you're gonna kind of fall into the trap of The Last of Us 2, in my opinion, is probably the biggest thing that comes to my mind, where you just kind of get not necessarily tired of the game, but you get tired because it's so depressing. And when you have that humor in there, it kind of makes things a lot better. And overall, I can't really explain it, but overall, it gives the game more of a feeling of, I guess, success in someone's mind. Maybe that's the right word. I'm not really sure, but there's just certain characters in this world that just are funny as fuck. Like, Brock is always just funny. Sindri's funny. The dwarves are just an amazing combo. Even Thor and Odin were pretty funny. Like, when coming into this, I would think Thor is just this badass dude that is war, fight, but yeah, there's still that with Thor, but there is depth to him. There's humor, there's sadness, there's depression, there's all of this stuff like a normal human would feel, even though these people are gods. And maybe that's kind of like a point through all of this. It's these gods are more human than we think. And I think that goes a long way in story purposes. But kind of trying to stay away from spoilers, I'm not going to reveal too much. But even going to Odin, like the voice actor for Odin is just amazing. Like, all in media, you see, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for instance, Odin is just so menacing and serious all the time. But like this Odin, like, there's Mr. Wise Guy attitude type of thing. Like, it feels more genuine to the character. Like, I have no idea how Odin is within Norse lore, but this, even though I don't know that, it feels genuine to the character. It fits. I thought it wouldn't. Like, when I first heard it, and I'm like, uh-oh. But then after a while, once you like start getting into scenes where he's more involved, you start to understand, wow, this works. This actually works. And he steals the show whenever he's on screen. And that also kind of goes into Kratos as well. So in the last game, you guys saw that Kratos became more vulnerable with Atreus. And in this game, sure as hell, it's going to happen even more. But there is just so many one-liners in this game where it is the pinnacle of badass. And also there's some one-liners that are like very memorable and gut-wrenching, and it really, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's game of the year material is what I'm trying to say. And also going forward, like, there's some some moments in this story where it surprises you, like straight up surprises you. It takes you one direction and then just switches lanes immediately and then goes toward the next. I just love it about that, even down to surprises in gameplay. Out of all things, like, usually think of surprises within story beat moments, and while that is true in this game, there's plenty of those, but also in gameplay, like, there's one in particular. I can't say what it is because I want you guys to experience it, but it is so crazy. Like, it fucking scared me. Like, it was pretty cool, and I think the people that play know what I'm talking about. And going forward, kind of with the growth of characters, what I was explaining before with Kratos, it also happens with Atreus. Atreus is, of course, older in the story now. He has a deeper voice. His balls have dropped. So with that comes more teenager type-esque vulnerability, I guess. Like, that's the there's another word I can describe it, but when you're a teenager and you're growing up, you're more vulnerable, you're more emotional, you're more backtalkish. That's exactly what Atreus is in this game. That's exactly what you'd expect. The actor does it so well, to the point where there's times where you feel sorry, there's times where you feel angry, and there's also times where it's pretty funny because, of course, when teenagers talk some shit, it's funny. Like, we've all heard the Call of Duty squeakers, right? It's pretty funny. This also kind of plays into, like, these moments, of course, where it's not necessarily in cutscenes. It's in just gameplay, walking around, talking around, kind of like what The Last of Us does. Usually what every Sony exclusive does. It's very character focused. So when you're out in the world, you're going to have casual conversations, and a lot of the growth comes from that. Like, if you just pay attention on YouTube to the cutscenes from certain YouTubers, where it's like the God of War Ragnarok movie, and it's just all cutscenes, you're not going to understand the growth, and you're probably not going to be attached because, well, you're watching a 2-hour video or 1-hour video, but you're not spending 30 plus hours with these characters, listening to these conversations about what they like, what they dislike, talking about the world, what's going on in their mind, and so forth. And even some of the times, you're just going to miss out on the humor because a lot of the humor happens in gameplay. Of course, it happens in cutscenes as well, but 90% of that is when you're walking around the world and companions talk to you. That's just how it is. And there's even times where I just, like, laugh out loud, and I walk around the world and just, like, sit there and wait for a character to talk to me. Like, it is that I get that hooked with this game, and it's been so long since I've had that. And the last one that did is my last review, The Last of Us. That's the aspect of this game that I enjoy the most, is just the little casual conversations and the subtle hints and jabs within huge story moments, within just small sections of gameplay, is probably my biggest pro of this game. Going into the world of game as well, the world of the game, there is, of course, 9 realms you can travel to. That's not a spoiler. That has been revealed in interviews and stuff like that. Asgard, Svartalheim, so forth, Midgard. All of these places have a very certain charm. Like, Midgard is this, of course, we all seen in gameplay, Fimbulwinter happens, that precedes Ragnarok. Midgard is just snowy, it's like, you're in the middle of the woods, it's very pretty to look at, even though it's kind of grayish. And then when you go to, like, say, Svartalheim, the home of the dwarves, everything is just so pretty and the opposite of Midgard. And it's like, even Asgard, I'm not going to spoil Asgard, but Asgard is crazy. Like, everything in this game is so beautiful, where I just even stop. There's even moments in the game where you can just stop and look, and it gives you as long as you want to just look at the horizon and just take in your surroundings, ponder on certain story moments, and just, I guess, be thankful for the game you're playing, I guess, because not a lot of games really give you options to just sit there and take in the beauty that the developers made. And going into that, the world building, there's also lots of side quests, which I was very surprised at, because in God of War, the 2018 version, there was of course some side quests, but it wasn't side quests, if that makes sense. Like, you were just exploring around the world, you'd talk to this ghost, and you'd go around this certain area that you were in to complete it. Like, you didn't go to another realm to complete the side quest. Maybe there was a couple that I forgot about that do that, But in this game, it's very much, you have markers, you have a compass, there's a world you can explore. Not necessarily open world, even though it kind of is. It's like it's a closed off open world is what I would say, with side quests in it. And these side quests they can even rival some main story missions that you do. There's also just a couple that are just like, fetch this, fetch that type of thing. But even those, you do it not necessarily for the story moments, but you do it for the gear you get. And with the gear you get, you solve these like pretty elaborate, I don't want to say elaborate because they're not like crazy, but you solve these puzzles, get a reward out of it, and you're accomplished because you're like, damn, I can actually go into battle and rock some shit now because I did this side quest. And there's also side quests that like precede or happen after main story missions. It connects with them, if that makes sense. And it's like, it's almost like a must. You have to do it, but you don't have to. And that can be a negative to some, but to me it's a positive because it pretty much not necessarily forces you, but kind of pushes you and be like, hey, go explore. This is what can happen when you do so. This is what can happen when you actually go out and complete most of the game. Go on, do that. And then it even happens at the end of the game where it connects to the end of the game, if you know what I mean. So going into gameplay, kind of how it's different from 2018. 2018 was it was good, but it wasn't very in-depth. And I don't want to say this game is very in-depth in combat either, because it really kind of is a hack and slash. It's what God of War genes are in. It's a hack and slash where it's kind of that, but it's way more polished is what I would say. It's way more manageable. Like if you were to be on higher difficulties, you can manage it because the gameplay is so much more refined. And with that comes more abilities. There's a bigger skill tree that you can do, and there's skill tree with your companions, like Atreus and so forth, all of that stuff. It's way, way, way more advanced. It's not advanced like Elden Ring or these big RPGs, because at this core, this game isn't an RPG, it's a narrative story. So it's going to be limited, but it's more complex than you would go into thinking, is the words I would use. And with that comes like the variety of boss fights. You have to pick which ability is more valuable out of the skill tree in order to beat these bosses. And of course, in the last game, there was like the Valkyrie boss fights after the game where you'd have to, of course, kill them, flick rewards and stuff like that. In this game, it's very similar with the boss fights. They're just not the Valkyries, but I'm not going to spoil what they are. But they are like tough, dude. I would say tougher than the Valkyries. And if you're on like the God of War difficulty, I haven't played that one, but oh my god, like I was playing on the difficulty Give Me Balance and I couldn't beat them. Like it's probably because I'm not a very good difficult story play. I usually play on either like the normal difficulty or slightly easy because I play it for narrative. I don't play it for difficulty. It's the reason why I don't play Elden Ring. It's because I'll own up to it. It's too difficult. I play these games on simply for the narrative. And even playing on Give Me Balance with these boss fights, I sometimes had to lower the difficulty to kind of see how different it would be. I even lowered it to the lowest difficulty in the game and still got my fucking ass whooped. Like that's how difficult they are. So you really need, the skill tree is very important for those boss fights. Gear is very important, all that stuff. At the end of the game, you're gonna find out you kind of like upgraded everything. On higher difficulties, that's gonna be a must. Like you have to be nailed down on that because you're gonna get less hack silver, less this, less that. I don't know, I find that really cool. Even though I get frustrated and like want to punch my monitor, but still. So to kind of briefly go over the things I don't like in this game, I know I was talking earlier about the compass in the world. The compass is very janky. Like when you're navigating the world, like it'll like the marker that you set on the compass in the map, it'll like zigzag. So it'll show you the right direction you're supposed to go to, but when you're heading in the right direction, the marker will like fucking glitch out and like not show you the right way to go. And that's what I don't like. They just need to get rid of the compass entirely because you already have the map, or they need to add something different, like a small mini map or something. Like I don't know what's going on with that thing, but it was very frustrating. It keeps your eyes on the compass rather than the world. Luckily, the compass isn't available a lot of the time. You only really need it for like side quests and some main story missions, so it's not It's not a huge thing, but it is something that gets frustrating over time when you're playing the game. Another con is kind of the difficulty, what I was saying. The difficulty can sometimes be too easy, but also very hard at times. Like the boss fights, even on very easy, the boss fights just are ridiculous sometimes. Maybe it's because I'm bad at the game. It's probably why. But even when I up it to like, I even put it on the hard difficulty, and sometimes things were easy and other times things were just frustratingly difficult. They really need to work on the difficulty here. I was watching Luke Stevens and he was playing on Gimme God of War and he was just flying through it, and that's not something you want. You want people to struggle, I would say. It's just so weird. Sometimes the easy difficulty could be hard. Sometimes the hard difficulty can be easy. It's just something that you can't really explain, and I wish it was different. So the last part that's kind of like a con is there is very much slow parts in this game, parts that drag out. It's mostly in the middle of the game, which kind of sucks because during that part you just kind of want to get through it so you can get to the main story moments and beat it. But there is very much slow moments that drag out longer than they need to. I could think of a couple right off the bat. I can't talk about it because it's spoilers, but it is something that I'm gonna very much cover in my game critique. So yeah, I would say keep a watch out for that if you're into someone that's action all the time. Of course, you're going to get that in this game, but there's also going to be slow moments where you're going to be very, very frustrated. So with that comes kind of like the end of the spoiler-free review. I know this is very laid back. This was not scripted at all. Maybe like the beginning it was, but going off the dome, I really needed to get kind of this off my chest and put it somewhere because my thoughts are just running, as well as I need to replay the game all over again because one, I need to kind of really get the story beats in my mind and really review it fully, because with these kind of games you need to play it a couple times in order to understand what's happening and kind of get a good sense of what's wrong with the game and what's right with the game. So there's that. But also second, like when I was recording this video, I was having frame stuttering constantly in my recordings, and I found out the reason why. So I need to replay the whole entire thing, which kind of fucking sucks, but we're gonna do it. But yeah, the main thing of this game is go buy it. Like, I'm serious, buy it, because it's very much a contender of the game of the year. It's either that or Elden Ring. And for me, it is my game of the year because I've never played Elden Ring, like I said before. But to you guys, it may be different. It can be easy at times. It can be difficult at times. The story moments are just amazing. Humor is amazing. The characters are amazing. There's growth in this game. There's certain family issues in this game. Even the baddies have issues, which is good. It's very, very, very close to a masterpiece. I need to play it one more time in order to kind of get that in my mind and see if it is or not. But yeah, if you guys kind of like this off the dome spoiler-free review type stuff, leave a comment down below, and also tell me what kind of video games you want me to critique next after this. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys later in my critique later this month. So yeah, bye guys.